The rain came down hard on Ouagadougou, hammering the ancient walls of the Palais du Peuple like war drums. Inside, the Grand Assembly chamber was dimly lit, the flickering light bulbs casting long, dancing shadows across the tense faces of the officials gathered. Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary turned president, stood at the center of the room, arms folded, his fatigue soaked from the rain he had refused to shield himself from. His expression was unreadable, a man not shaken by the storm outside, but by the storm he had chosen to unleash within. "You've gone too far this time, Ibrahim," hissed Colonel Diabate, his voice low, trembling not with fear but with rage. "This isn't revolution, this is madness." Traoré's eyes narrowed. "Madness, no. Madness was letting the West dictate our destiny for 60 years. Madness was watching our children die while the mines bled our land dry for someone else's gold. Madness, Colonel is staying quiet, but I am not quiet, not anymore." A murmur rolled through the chamber as ministers, generals, and advisors exchanged looks. This was not the Ibrahim they thought they could manage. This was the firebrand again, the guerrilla leader who had once walked barefoot through the jungles, dodging drones and bullets, speaking of a Pan-African dawn. Many had thought power would tame him. They were wrong. Prime Minister Sanu stepped forward, his tailored French suit now soaked with nervous sweat. "What exactly did you tell Moscow, Ibrahim?" Traoré smiled, but it was the smile of a lion before the pounce. "I told them the truth, that France is finished in Burkina Faso, that America's covert handlers in Ouagadougou have 1 week to leave, that our future is not with neocolonial puppeteers but with those who respect sovereignty." "You did what?" Sanu staggered. "You told them without a vote, without informing the council. You just threw a match on a powder keg. I was elected to lead, not to ask permission," Ibrahim said quietly before raising his voice. "Our people want justice, real justice, and it cannot come without blood." An audible gasp, one of the younger ministers muttered, "He's going to get us all killed." Defense Minister Aissatou Barrow, the only woman among the senior leadership, leaned forward. Her voice was razor-sharp. "This will invite retaliation. France has troops ready in Ivory Coast. The CIA will destabilize us from within. We have no anti-air systems to defend Ouagadougou. You want sovereignty, I want it too, but not at the cost of genocide. I don't fear their bombs." Ibrahim replied, "Let them come, let them try. For every drone they send, 10 of our youth will rise with rifles. The revolution must have martyrs." "Enough with your romanticism," snapped Diabate. "You think this is 1983. You think you're Sankara reborn. Even Sankara was assassinated by those closest to him." A silence fell, a deadly one. Traoré turned slowly toward Diabate, the tension unbearable. "Are you making a threat, Colonel?" "No," Diabate replied, voice tight, "but your arrogance is making enemies faster than we can bury them." The room fell into chaos, yelling, accusations. The power flickered as thunder shook the ceiling. Ibrahim raised a single hand and the room gradually quieted. "Let me tell you what they won't tell you," he said, stepping forward, voice low and ominous. "Yesterday, our security forces intercepted a French operative outside Kaya. He was carrying encrypted document, orders for my assassination, codenamed Operation Eclipse." Whispers shock. Sanu blinked. "You're sure?" "I've seen the files, I have the audio. They plan to kill me during my next routine trip to the Sahel front, and Diabate's name was in the communication log." The colonel erupted. "Lies, that's a fabrication." Ibrahim produced a flash drive from his breast pocket. "Then let's play it, for all to hear." Barrow took the drive, plugged it into the assembly's comms console. Within seconds, a chilling voice echoed through the chamber. A French-accented man spoke in cryptic detail. "He moves with minimal protection. The convoy will be easiest to hit in segment K7. Diabate will relay the timing." Everyone froze. Diabate lunged toward the console, but was intercepted by 2 soldiers. Guns were drawn. For a split second, the chamber was on the brink of becoming a bloodbath. "Arrest him," Ibrahim said calmly. Diabate screamed, "This is a setup, you bast." A hard blow from a rifle but silenced him. The colonel crumpled. Ibrahim looked across the room. This is what we face, not just foreign traitors, but traitors from within. That's why I must act before they do. From this moment forward, Operation Kumbia is live. Barrow's eyes widened. No, you can't be serious. That's the total shutdown protocol. Martial law. Every embassy will panic. It's political suicide. It's revolution, he said, but Barrow wasn't finished. Do you even realize what you're triggering? ECOWAS will respond militarily. The UN will sanction us into the Stone Age. You're not just cutting ties. You're setting the region on fire. I'd rather burn the fields than let them poison the roots. A younger officer burst through the doors. Sir, there's a convoy approaching from the East UN, marked vehicles but armed. We think it's a proxy insertion. Seal the compound. Ibrahim ordered, bring the generals. We decide now, are we slaves or sovereign? The room fell silent again. The question hung heavy, thicker than the rain outside. Everyone knew this was no longer politics. This was war, but it wasn't over. An elderly voice, cracked with time and gravel, came from the shadows. I warned you this would happen, Ibrahim. It was Mustafa Zerbo, the former intelligence chief, long retired and half forgotten. No one had noticed him in the back of the chamber, where he now rose like a ghost from the past. His face was etched with disappointment. You think you can outplay empires with rage? You think loyalty can be commanded through fear? I served 5 presidents, and every one of them fell because they believed the people would follow them blindly into the fire. I'm not asking them to follow blindly, Ibrahim replied. I'm lighting the path. Zerbo shook his head. A path lit by flames leads only to ashes. And with that, he walked out of the chamber, slow, steady, undeterred. No one stopped him. The city held its breath. As dusk descended upon Ouagadougou, the streets that once echoed with the laughter of vendors and the music of griots now rang with the click of boots, the rattle of armored trucks, and the nervous whispers of a nation on the brink. Martial law was in effect, curfews enforced, communications severed, all social media blacked out. Ibrahim Traoré had declared the beginning of Operation Kumbia, and nothing would be the same again. In the presidential war room beneath the Palais du Peuple, maps of West Africa stretched across the walls, glowing red with digital alerts. Satellite feeds flickered, showing convoy movements along the borders. Aides scurried between desks, murmuring into headsets. The air was electric with tension. Ibrahim, you've triggered the Americans, Aissatou Barrow said, slamming a tablet down on the table. Sigint just picked up scrambled transmissions from the U.S. base in Niger. They're moving drones into high orbit. We're being watched closely. They've always watched us, Traoré said without looking up. The difference now is we're watching them back. Barrow leaned in. We can't match their tech. You know that. We've got Russian trainers, yes, but no S-400s, no missile shield. If the Americans or French decide to hit, we're exposed. Ibrahim turned slowly. They won't strike first, not unless we give them a reason, and you just gave them 10. Before she could continue, a new voice interrupted. Permission to speak freely, sir, asked Captain Bayo, the youngest officer in the room. His uniform still had the creases from a fresh press. His voice was firm, but his eyes betrayed unease. Go ahead. Ibrahim said, my unit at the airport intercepted an unmarked aircraft trying to land. No flight plan. Tail numbers were masked. We forced it down. Cargo. 2 civilians, white, American accents, claimed to be NGO workers. No ID. Traoré raised an eyebrow. Interrogate them. We did, sir. Bayo hesitated. One cracked. CA knock. Real name, Jonathan M. Behrens. The other one bit his own tongue off before we could question him. Gasps erupted around the table. Jesus Christ, whispered Sanu, pale as marble. They've already begun. Ibrahim said, standing up. This is their playbook. Infiltrate, sabotage, kill, then call it a humanitarian crisis and justify airstrikes. Barrow stared at him. We still have options. We can negotiate, release the CA man in exchange for proof that we're not their enemy. No, Traoré snapped. They crossed the line. They sent a ghost to assassinate me and another to destabilize our country. This is not chess anymore. It's war. Then we'll lose. Barrow muttered just loud enough, everyone heard it. Ibrahim stepped in close. If you believe that, then leave. I won't chain anyone to a cause they don't believe in, but don't mistake your doubt for wisdom. Barrow looked him in the eye. Her voice cracked for the first time. I believe in Burkina Faso. I don't believe in throwing our people into the mouth of lions. A tense silence followed. Sanu broke it. There's more. Zerbo's gone dark. No trace since he walked out. Ibrahim frowned. Check his old contacts, all of them. The communications officer leaned in. Sir, we have a bigger problem. Speak. There's chatter coming out of Lome. Togo's military is mobilizing. Why? ECOWAS just convened an emergency session. Nigeria and Côte d'Ivoire are calling for a coalition intervention if the constitutional order isn't restored. Ibrahim's jaw clenched. They're planning to restore Diabate. Barrow sighed. This is exactly what I warned. We're surrounded. If they deploy, we'll be crushed. No, Ibrahim said slowly, we change the battlefield. How? Sanu demanded. By dragging Russia and China into our backyard. You think they'll save us? You think Putin gives a damn about Burkina beyond the uranium? He doesn't have to care. He only has to act. Everyone stared at him. Ibrahim reached for a folder marked Alpha, Initiation. He opened it, and from inside drew a single image, a detailed schematic of the Zaber Dam, the largest hydroelectric power facility in the region, one whose energy fed not just Burkina Faso, but neighboring countries as well. You're going to take the grid offline, Barrow said, aghast. We're going to force them to the table. Ibrahim corrected. You'll collapse every hospital in the country. Only for 24 hours. This is insanity. It's leverage. Barrow pushed back from the table. I didn't join this revolution to become a terrorist. Ibrahim stared at her. No, you joined it to make sure our sons and daughters didn't die for French gold or American promises. I remember your oath, Aissatou, or has fear made you forget? Her lips trembled. Don't you dare question my loyalty. I'm not, he said gently. I'm questioning your resolve. A tense silence returned. Finally, Sanu spoke up, tired and broken. So what now? We bring darkness upon our people to light a fire under the West. No, Ibrahim said. We make them feel what we felt, disruption, uncertainty, fear. Suddenly, the lights in the war room flickered and died. For a moment, everyone froze. Then the emergency power kicked in. Was that us? Barrow asked, alarmed. No, Bayo said, eyes wide as he checked his tablet. That wasn't the Zaber shutoff, that was external. Another officer burst in. Sir, we have a code red breach, northern checkpoint. It's Zerbo. He's returned. What? Ibrahim turned, stunned. He's not alone, he brought UN observers and a French diplomat. They're demanding an emergency session. The room exploded in chaos. How did he get them past the blockade? Barrow asked. He must have used the old diplomatic route, Sanu muttered. Only someone with pre-revolution clearance could access that. He planned this. Ibrahim whispered, his voice hollow. A moment later, the side door opened. There stood Mustafa Zerbo, calm, composed, in a clean white robe. Beside him stood a thin, sharp-eyed woman with a European accent and a red UN folder in her hand. The others followed, a pair of armed peacekeepers, and finally, Ambassador Jean-Marc Delacourt. Ibrahim, Zerbo said softly. We need to talk. You betrayed us. Ibrahim growled. No, Zerbo replied. I protected you. You brought the wolves to the table. I brought witnesses. Zerbo corrected, and an offer. Ibrahim laughed bitterly. I'm not interested in being bought. You should be, Delacourt said, stepping forward, because if you refuse, there's already a multilateral strike authorization in motion. You're bluffing. We're not, the UN official said coldly. And we have satellite evidence of your preparations for dam sabotage. If that happens, you'll be labeled a war criminal. Barrow shot a glance at Ibrahim. You see now, he didn't answer. His fingers curled into fists. Delacourt raised a document. Here is the offer, a transition plan. You remain provisional head of state for 6 months. Power is then transferred to an elected council. In return, sanctions are lifted, aid restored, and military intervention averted. Ibrahim stepped forward. And the condition? Delacourt hesitated. Diabate is released and reinstated as head of the armed forces. Everyone erupted. Barrow shouted, absolutely not. Sanu cursed. Bayo raised his rifle in reflex. But Ibrahim was quiet. Ibrahim, Zerbo said carefully, this is the only path that avoids war. And then the impossible happened. Ibrahim nodded, I accept. Stunned silence. Barrow stared at him like she didn't recognize the man before her. What the hell are you doing? Winning, he whispered. You're surrendering. No, he said, I'm shifting the battlefield. And then, as everyone scrambled to understand what he meant, Ibrahim turned to Delacourt and reached for the document. But before he could touch it, the lights died again, this time for real. A blaring siren echoed through the chamber. An officer screamed from the hallway, explosion at Zabur Dam, we've lost the northern turbines. Everyone froze. Ibrahim turned slowly to Barrow. I didn't give the order, he said. She was pale. I didn't either. Zerbo's face turned to stone. Delacourt backed away. What the hell is going on? A distant rumble shook the building. Bayo shouted, secondary breach. The floodgates are failing. Ibrahim grabbed a radio, who's in control of the Zabur command unit. A garbled voice came back. Unknown hostiles. They spoke Russian. Repeat Russian. They detonated pre-planted charges. Silence. And then Barrow said what everyone was thinking. This was never your plan. You were just a pawn. Zerbo fell into a chair, defeated. Ibrahim stood frozen and the world tilted. Rain pounded the windows of the emergency command center. 1,000 miles away, the Zabur Dam continued to bleed water into the valleys of Burkina Faso. Entire towns were submerged within hours. Radio towers collapsed. Bridges crumbled. Electricity grids overloaded. The heart of the nation, its people, was gasping for breath, and Ibrahim Traoré stood in the eye of the storm, accused of crimes he had never ordered, trapped by a betrayal he had never imagined. Where is the Russian attaché? He demanded. Barrow was already tapping furiously on her satellite phone, attempting to break through scrambled signals. Gone. Disappeared from his hotel suite 3 hours before the breach. They used me, Ibrahim growled. We asked for advisors, not mercenaries. I let them in through the front door, and now they're stabbing us in the back. Sanyu threw his chair aside and stormed across the room. You said this was war, but it wasn't, not until tonight. Now we've crossed the line, hundreds are dead, thousands displaced. I didn't give the order, no. Sanyu said, pointing to the wall where monitors flickered with flood maps and satellite images. But your signature is still on the operation manifest that approved access to the dam complex. You may not have pulled the trigger, but you sure as hell handed them the gun. Zerbo, seated in a far corner, said nothing. He had not spoken since the breach. Delacourt was on the line with Brussels. Yes, full-scale humanitarian crisis. No, he's not cooperating. No, I can't guarantee stability. Listen, if France moves now, you'll escalate it. He still has loyalists in the barracks. We need a surgical. He paused, hearing a voice on the other end. His eyes widened. What do you mean they leaked it? He turned slowly to Ibrahim. You need to see this. Delacourt handed over his tablet. On the screen was a social media feed illegally accessed, hacked open by unknown parties. A video was already going viral. Grainy surveillance footage of uniformed Russian contractors planting charges beneath the dam, one of them carrying a patch with the insignia of the Wagner Group. The comments were explosive. Burkina Faso's leader linked to Russian terror plot. Traoré allies with Wagner to destabilize ECOWAS. UN preparing charges of ecocide. Barrow leaned over his shoulder and exhaled. This is it. They're coming. There's no walking back from this now. Who leaked it? Ibrahim whispered. Delacourt grimaced. Not us. We had the footage, but someone leaked it before it could be officially reviewed. Sanyu suddenly swore. Zerbo. Heads turned. Zerbo stood slowly, lifting his eyes. You gave it to them. Sanyu growled. You set him up. You were in on this all along. Zerbo's voice was low. I did what I had to. I had to stop him. You damn snake, enough. Ibrahim shouted, slamming his hand against the table, his eyes locked on Zerbo's. Why? After everything we fought for, after Sankara's memory, after Sorrow's death in the northern fields, why betray it now? Zerbo's face contorted with anguish. Because you forgot what we were fighting for, you wanted to be feared, Sankara inspired, you manipulated, you militarized the dream. I stood against colonialism, you became it. Zerbo spat when you invited Russia in, when you crushed dissent, when you built a palace for war instead of homes for peace. I warned you, you refused to hear it. Silence. Barrow whispered, "So you sold him out." "I exposed him to the world," Zerbo said, "and maybe, just maybe, the world will save us from ourselves." Delacourt's phone rang again. He answered, listened, and paled. "It's confirmed. Nigeria's special forces have crossed into the southwest border. Ghanaian air units are mobilizing. Côte d'Ivoire too. The coalition is moving. Traoré turned to Bayo. Status of our troops. 80% still loyal, but morale's shaken with this leak. We're hemorrhaging trust, and if they think you're compromised by Wagner, they might jump ship." Ibrahim stared at the glowing monitors showing troop movements converging on his territory. Barrow grabbed his arm. "You have to step down. No, you'll burn the country. If I go now, they'll hang this whole thing on me. Every corpse in Zaber, every drowned child. I didn't do this. They did." She took a breath. "Then give them someone else." He blinked. "What? Give them Wagner?" Sanu leaned in. "We leak names, operatives, routes, locations. If we hand them the Russians, we buy time. You live to fight another day." "You're asking me to trade blood for seconds," Ibrahim muttered. "No," Barrow said softly. "We're asking you to survive, or you die tonight, and with you dies the last chance of sovereignty this country has." Ibrahim stared at the table, then slowly nodded. "Then get me the list." 2 hours later, in a sealed bunker beneath Ouagadougou's Ministry of Defense, a covert uplink was established. Ibrahim Traoré appeared on screen, live to a closed UN Security Council session. Around the world, intelligence directors leaned forward. Media outlets scrambled for confirmation. And in that moment, the man the world now called the African strongman began his final gambit, the sabotage of the Zaber Dam. He said calmly, "Was not my order, nor was it my vision. It was the act of foreign mercenaries operating under a false pretense of alliance. I have their names, their origins, and their operational commands." Cameras clicked. Ibrahim dropped the folder onto the desk. "These are the individuals responsible for the crime against my people, and if you want them, I suggest you act before they vanish." UN Ambassador Zhu raised her hand. "Are you offering cooperation?" "I'm offering truth and justice, but I will not resign. I will not surrender my people to French puppet regimes. If ECOWAS invades, they'll be invading a country actively rooting out foreign influence, not protecting it." The feed cut. Delacourt stared at the blank screen. My God, he just turned the narrative. Barrow exhaled. No, he bought a sliver of time, that's all. Suddenly, the command doors burst open. A bloodied officer stumbled in. "Rebels inside the capital, not ECOWAS, not foreign, our own. What? Diabate loyalists. They've coordinated an internal coup." Ibrahim's face went blank. "Where?" "Everywhere. The radio tower, the state bank, the East Barracks. They've declared a counter-revolution." Barrow's eyes widened. "How?" Sanu growled. "Because Diabate never left. We released him. Remember, that was part of the deal. He played us." Bayo whispered, "No." Ibrahim said, standing slowly, "He outplayed us." Across the city, gunfire rang out. Explosions lit up the skyline. Fighter jets roared overhead, unsure which orders to obey. And in the shadow of the National Monument, Diabate emerged, flanked by soldiers, holding aloft a microphone. "My people," he boomed, "your suffering ends tonight. The traitor has fallen. The era of Russian tyranny is over. I, General Ismail Diabate, restore order to this republic under the flag of our ancestors." Crowds watched in silence. Fear, hope, confusion. Inside the command center, Ibrahim Traoré stood alone, the others either captured or scattered. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a single, blood-stained letter. It was from his mother, written when he first joined the army. "If you ever stand at a place where power and justice don't agree, remember your name is not greater than your people's hunger. Walk away, Ibrahim, walk away and live long enough to make peace, not just war." The doors were breached. Gunshots echoed down the hall. He folded the letter and walked into the night. The skies over Ouagadougou were streaked with smoke and fire. Helicopters hovered like vultures over the collapsing remnants of a city that once dared to stand alone. And somewhere beneath the chaos, in the battered maze of alleyways and shadows, the man the world called a villain, a hero, a revolutionary, Ibrahim Traoré, was vanishing like a ghost. The international press was relentless. CNN, Al Jazeera, and France 24 flooded the airwaves with breaking reports. Traoré deposed, Diabate seizes control, Russian mercenaries routed. But no one, not even the satellites above, could say where Traoré had gone. Rumors ran wild. Some claimed he fled to Mali, others said he died resisting arrest. But the truth was darker, stranger, and still unfolding. It was Barrow who found him first. 2 weeks after the capital fell, she entered the basement of a burned-out cathedral on the outskirts of the city. The altar was shattered, the crucifix was missing, but in the gloom beyond the sanctuary, Ibrahim sat quietly in a folding chair, his beard longer, his uniform dirty, blood still dried under his fingernails. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. "Maybe I am." She walked over and stood in front of him. "You had a chance to run. I'm tired of running." Barrow sat across from him. "The world's moving fast. Diabate's already at the O Summit. He's promised elections, disbanded your intelligence wing, and just handed over the last Wagner operative to Interpol." He nodded, "Of course. You're the most wanted man in West Africa. I always wanted to be famous," he said with a half smile. Barrow didn't laugh. She reached into her coat and handed him a dossier. "This came from Geneva, from someone who still believes in you." He opened it. Inside were names, dates, documents, and one item that made his hand tremble. A forged security memo dated 2 months before the Zabur breach, signed not by him, but by Diabate. They found it during an audit, Barrow said. "This proves he coordinated with Wagner before you even signed the cooperation accord." "I knew it," he whispered. "He lit the fuse. He killed all those people just to come back as the savior. And you're going to expose him." He looked up slowly. "No, I'm not." Barrow stared. "What?" "I've spent years making war," he said, "leading coups, shouting about sovereignty. What's it worth if it all ends in another coup, another execution, another lie traded for power? You think letting him rule is better? I think the people need peace more than they need another martyr." She stood. "You're wrong. The people need truth, and this," she held up the forged memo, "is truth." He didn't answer. That night, Barrow disappeared. No one ever saw her again in Burkina Faso, but the next morning, a video surfaced online. It showed Ibrahim Traoré in full military dress, standing atop the old National Archives building. "My name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré," he began. "You've been told I destroyed this country, that I invited foreign killers to our soil, that I drowned my people for power, but the truth is this: I was betrayed by those I trusted, by a man the world now celebrates." He held up the document. "This is the order that allowed Wagner to breach the dam, not mine, his, Diabate." Then he paused. "But I am not asking you to rise in revolt. I am not asking for blood or vengeance. I am asking for memory. Remember that your freedom was bought with lies, that sovereignty is not a name, it is a choice. And if you must rebuild this nation, build it not in my image, but in truths." Then, without warning, he stepped back into the air and vanished behind the edge of the rooftop. The screen went black. For hours, chaos erupted again, but no body was ever found, no trace of the fall, no proof of death. Some said he faked it, just like everything else. Others said he was taken by foreign agents or the gods of revolution. But in the years that followed, children in the northern villages would whisper a name when the wind howled through the dry branches: Ibrahim. And in a region scarred by coups, corruption, and colonial scars, the memory of one man, flawed, fierce, and ultimately human, became a ghost that never truly left, because the moment he shocked the world wasn't when he took power. It was when he walked away from it.